My name is Marcia Chatlin. I'm a professor of history and African American studies at Georgetown University.
Hey, Georgetown.
I'm a historian of African American life and culture. Juneteenth is a commemoration holiday of June 19, 1865, when a group of African Americans in Galveston, Texas, received the news that they indeed were free. President Lincoln had signed the Emancipation Proclamation in 1863, but news of the end of slavery in Texas had not traveled to this community until 1865.
Took 2 years.
Since then, Juneteenth has been a day of commemoration of the struggle against slavery and a celebration of freedom. One of the biggest misconceptions about Juneteenth is that people often think that was the day that slavery ended in the United States. But in fact, the 13th Amendment, which abolished slavery in the United States, was passed in the Senate on April 8, 1864, and the House on January 31st, 1865. Although Juneteenth celebrates the knowledge that slavery had ended, it's important to remember that the conditions that mirrored slavery, whether it was Jim Crow or the suppression of civil rights, or continued struggles to fight racism, those continued long after the end of slavery. And so the Juneteenth holiday reminds us of where we've come, and it also inspires us to think about the places we want to go. As African Americans left the South to pursue opportunities throughout the 20th century in northern and western cities, the celebration of Juneteenth moved from being a Texas-based celebration to a national one, in which people gathered with families and friends and community to remember the incredible struggle of a people against slavery and to create new traditions that allowed them to reflect about the struggle for civil rights and the ongoing struggle against racism. Although slavery was abolished in 1865, the fight for civil rights has continued to the present day. So Juneteenth provides people with a sense of encouragement and inspiration to continue to fight on behalf of their community and their families for freedom. And it also is a holiday that, as it continues to become more and more popular, it allows people to look back at the past and encourages them to learn more about African American history.
Definitely. A reflection, definitely.
As more and more institutions recognize Juneteenth and work to commemorate the incredible legacy of slavery in the United States, I hope Juneteenth becomes a day where people commit not only to acts of justice in their local community, but to investigate history in a more deep and thoughtful way.
Yes. That was such an insightful video. I mean, it kind of illustrated exactly what Juneteenth means to us and how important it is to really celebrate and to really reflect on the historical aspect of what Juneteenth is. But when I listen to this, something comes to mind. It took 2 years for the slaves in the South in Texas to learn about the proclamation that had been signed. It doesn't state that they had heard this from the black soldiers that had returned back home, but they didn't trust that they were getting the right information from them. That's important because in a community that is still fighting for the justice and the civil rights of individuals, it's important to reflect on why it took so long for that news to travel there and what was happening in between when those in the community were coming back with that information. We have to learn to trust each other, to investigate, to research, to reach out and see what our resources are. And this is a prime example of why it's so important for communities to come together, trusting in one another, and then doing our research to back it up. If we question it, back it up. Let's find out, because it wasn't until the white soldiers started to report that this proclamation had been signed that they actually said, we are free. 2 years had already passed. They were already free. That's important to know. But I love this video. I'm so glad I was able to share it here on the Lollipop Lounge. And I'm so glad that I was able to celebrate and commemorate the Juneteenth experience.
Tell me pretty lies, look me in the face, tell me that you love me, even if it's fake.